Listen closely, because what I'm about to share with you might be the most important shift you make this year. There comes a moment in life when silence becomes stronger than shouting, when calmness becomes louder than confrontation, and when your presence alone becomes the answer arrogant people never saw coming. The Stoics called this the strength of an inner fortress, a mind so steady, so disciplined, so anchored in wisdom that no insult can shake it, no loud voice can intimidate it, and no arrogant person can control it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best answer to anger is silence." But silence is not weakness. In the hands of a Stoic, silence is a sword. Silence is strategy. Silence is power. And today, I'm going to show you 5 Stoic techniques so sharp, so effective, so grounded in ancient wisdom and modern maturity that arrogant people will collapse under their own noise while you rise above them effortlessly. Before we begin, I want you to do something for me. If you want to build a mind that cannot be shaken, if you want to master the kind of emotional discipline that makes people respect you without you saying a single word, then stay with me until the end of this video. And if you believe in becoming mentally stronger every single day, then go ahead and subscribe to this channel, The Inner Fortress, and hit that like button. It tells YouTube that you're serious about growth, and it helps this message reach someone who might need it today. Now breathe, steady yourself, let's step into the wisdom of the Stoics. Section 1, The Stoic Art of Emotional Sovereignty. Arrogant people survive on emotional reactions the way fire survives on oxygen. They push, provoke, and pressure others because reaction gives them power. It feeds their ego, it confirms their illusion that they are superior. They expect you to defend yourself, argue, or feel intimidated. But a Stoic refuses to hand over that power. A Stoic guards their emotional state with the same discipline a warrior guards a sacred gate. The first Stoic technique is the foundation of all others, emotional sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." This truth becomes the weapon arrogant people cannot defeat. Imagine you're sitting in an office meeting. The energy is calm until one person enters, the arrogant one. Every workplace, every family, every group has one. Their voice is louder than reason. Their pride walks ahead of them. And today, they decide to target you. They cut you off mid-sentence. They mock your idea, they roll their eyes dramatically to get a reaction. In that moment, something inside you rises, the instinct to defend yourself. But you are practicing Stoicism now. You have trained your mind to pause before reacting. You breathe slowly, you don't flinch, you don't let your face betray emotion. You simply observe. Seneca warned, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Arrogant people thrive because they manipulate your imagination. They make you imagine disrespect, failure, embarrassment, and judgment. They want you to imagine that you must fight back. But when you stay calm, when you remain still, you break the illusion. The arrogant person begins to feel something they never expect, loss of control. Because arrogant people do not know how to handle someone who does not react. They are fueled by emotional exchange, by chaos, by the rise in your voice. Silence becomes your sword. Your composure speaks louder than any insult they throw. People in the room start noticing something powerful. You are not resisting, and yet you are not weak. You are not reacting, yet you are not intimidated. Your presence becomes heavier, stronger, more centered. This is the Stoic aura. Emotional sovereignty is not passive, it is strategic mastery. When you control your emotions, you control the outcome. The arrogant person grows louder, more desperate. Their attempts lose precision. They look foolish. They look unstable, because the room sees one person losing control and another standing like a quiet mountain. Most people don't realize this. The moment you remain emotionally steady, the arrogant person starts fighting themselves. Their ego becomes their enemy. Their insecurities rise to the surface. Their own emotions betray them. You did not need to fight them, they fought themselves. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Emotional sovereignty proves this. The arrogant person wants you to mirror them, to become irrational, loud, and reactive. But when you refuse, you expose their immaturity without a single word. This technique works in every environment. In relationships, where one person tries to dominate emotionally. In friendships, where someone expects constant validation. In public situations, where someone tries to show off by belittling others. Emotional sovereignty is universal. It is a shield that arrogant people cannot pierce. They might throw words at you, but words only hurt when they can enter your heart. When your emotional state belongs only to you, insults become meaningless vibrations in the air. There is something else the Stoics understood deeply: calmness is intimidating. True calmness, not the fake, forced one, real, grounded calmness. When you remain centered in yourself, arrogant people feel exposed. They feel their tactics failing. They feel their energy bouncing back at them. They feel small, and this is why emotional sovereignty silences arrogance without confrontation. It gives you the upper hand without raising your voice. It protects your dignity without creating conflict. Seneca taught that the wise man is unshaken by storms because he carries his peace within. Emotional sovereignty gives you an inner space that no arrogant person can invade. Instead of reacting outwardly, you maintain inward clarity. You understand. Their behavior is a reflection of them, not you. Their insults reveal their insecurities, not your flaws. Their noise reveals their chaos, not your weakness. And when you see clearly, you no longer take things personally. You become untouchable. Now here's what most people never realize: arrogant individuals depend on emotional dominance. They need someone else to feel small for them to feel big. They need someone else to react for them to feel powerful. But when you remain emotionally sovereign, you deny them this food. You starve their arrogance. Slowly, their fire dies. Their voice loses force. Their presence loses energy. They realize they cannot control you. And that realization is what silences them more effectively than any comeback you could ever deliver. And if you're listening to this right now, take a moment to acknowledge something important. Not many people reach this level of emotional mastery. Most people react immediately. Most people feel attacked. Most people fall into the trap. But you are building the discipline of the ancients. You are forming a mind like Marcus Aurelius. You are choosing clarity over ego, peace over chaos, and control over reaction. That already sets you apart. So if you haven't subscribed to the Inner Fortress, now is the moment. Join a community of thinkers who want the same strength you're building. And now, let's move deeper into Stoic power. Section 2, the power of the unmoved frame. Arrogant people want one thing above all: control of the emotional environment. They want to set the tone. They want you to match their energy. They want you to respond the way they expect. This is why the second Stoic technique, the unmoved frame, is so devastatingly effective. It dismantles arrogance without physical force, without argument, and without emotional exchange. Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit." The unmoved frame is about refusing that complicity. It is the art of not letting others dictate your inner world. Picture a mountain. A man can shout at it, he can insult it, he can throw stones at it, but the mountain does not respond. The mountain does not move. And strangely, the more the man attacks, the more foolish he looks. You must become that mountain. When someone tries to provoke you, raise their voice at you, or talk down to you, they are attempting to shake your frame, your emotional grounding. The Stoic response is simple: do not shift. Do not step into their emotional space. Make them step into yours. Think of a conversation with an arrogant coworker, relative, or stranger. They escalate. You do not. They raise their tone. You keep yours steady. They become sarcastic. You keep your answers simple and factual. They try to embarrass you. You maintain presence, posture, and composure. This is not about being passive or avoiding conflict. It is about psychological dominance. You are training them to understand that their tactics do not work on you. And subconsciously, they begin adjusting to your frame because theirs failed. When someone cannot shake you emotionally, they lose power. Arrogance depends on emotional leverage. It depends on emotional imbalance. It depends on emotional contagion, the idea that if they raise their energy, you will mirror it, but when you hold your frame, their energy hits a wall. It cannot enter. It cannot manipulate, it cannot spread, and the arrogant person suddenly realizes they are playing a game alone. The unmoved frame is also rooted in deep self-respect. When you stay calm in front of arrogance, you are silently saying, I am not entertaining this level of behavior. You are showing that you value your peace more than you value victory in a petty argument. Marcus Aurelius wrote, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. This means you do not descend to the arrogant person's level because you hold yourself to a higher standard. You do not match disrespect with disrespect. You answer with self-control. Imagine you're in a heated situation. Someone is radiating arrogance, trying to dominate the space. Most people would match their tone, react emotionally, and escalate the conflict. But a Stoic does the opposite. Your tone stays calm, your breathing stays slow. Your posture remains straight, your eyes remain steady. This confuses the arrogant person. They expected war, they expected a reaction, but you gave them stillness. And stillness reveals their lack of mastery. Here's something powerful. The unmoved frame forces arrogant people to confront themselves. When they cannot shake you, they become aware of their own instability. Their voice stumbles, their confidence wavers, their insults become weaker, their arrogance starts to fold under the weight of your calmness. You win not by overpowering them but by out-centering them. This is the strategy of emperors, generals, philosophers, and warriors. It is psychological power in its purest form. This technique changes your relationships. It changes how people speak to you. It changes how people see you. You start being perceived as someone who cannot be manipulated, someone whose emotions are stable, someone who sets the tone in every room. The unmoved frame makes people rethink how they approach you. It demands respect without you ever asking for it. It elevates your status in silence. People who can maintain their emotional grounding are rare. That is why Stoics were admired and feared. They carried an aura that said, I control myself. You control nothing. Arrogant people crumble before this aura because arrogance thrives on weakness, not strength. And when you hold your frame, you show them the difference between loudness and power. Loudness needs attention, power needs none. If you're still here, you're serious about your transformation. That alone separates you from most. And if this resonates with you, hit subscribe to the Inner Fortress. We're only getting started. Section 3, the Stoic practice of controlled silence. Controlled silence is one of the most underestimated forces in human interaction. Arrogant people expect noise. They expect argument. They expect defense. They expect emotional reaction. But silence, real, intentional, disciplined silence, destroys arrogance because it reveals a terrifying truth. You are not intimidated, you are not impressed, and you are not dependent on their approval. Marcus Aurelius said, silence is a lesson learned from the many sufferings of life. When you've lived enough, you understand that not every battle requires a sword. Some require a closed mouth and an open mind. Let me show you 2 real-life stories that prove how powerful controlled silence can be. The first is from a workplace in Dubai. A young Nigerian man, brilliant at his job, had a manager who was chronically arrogant, always belittling subordinates, always trying to dominate meetings, always speaking over others. One day, in front of the entire team, this manager snapped at him aggressively, "Do you ever think before you speak? Because it certainly doesn't sound like it." Everyone froze. All eyes turned to him. They expected defensiveness. They expected anger. But he stayed silent. He breathed slowly. He looked at the manager with a calm, steady gaze. No reaction, no argument, no emotion, just deep calmness. The silence lasted only a few seconds, but it felt like a full minute. The manager became visibly uncomfortable. He began stuttering, trying to regain control. But the team had already seen what happened. One man remained unshaken while the loud manager exposed his insecurity. Days later, HR stepped in because several staff members reported the manager's behavior. Controlled silence created a shift no words could have achieved. Another example comes from a story shared by a woman in London. Her partner had a habit of talking down at people, especially waiters, Uber drivers, or anyone he considered beneath him. One evening at a dinner party, he tried to embarrass her by mocking her educational background in front of guests. Instead of reacting, she simply stopped talking. She looked at him with a calm expression. No anger, no sadness, no fear, just silence. The guests became uncomfortable, not with her, but with him. They saw his arrogance clearly for the first time. The silence exposed him more brutally than any argument ever could. After the party, two guests privately told her, "You handled that like a queen." Seneca said, "I have often regretted my speech, never my silence." Silence never harms you, but arrogance always harms itself. Controlled silence is not weakness. It is the refusal to waste energy on someone who has not earned your voice. It exposes the emotional immaturity of arrogant people. They need your reaction to survive. They need your energy to stay relevant. They need your words to justify their ego. When you give them silence, you deny them all three. Here is the psychological truth. Silence forces arrogant people into self-reflection, even if they don't realize it. When you don't argue back, they must face the echo of their own behavior. They must sit with their words. They must confront the fact that their attempt at domination failed. Silence makes them aware of themselves, something their ego hates. Controlled silence is also strategic. It allows you time to think before responding. It prevents you from saying something emotional that you'll regret. It gives you the upper hand without stepping into conflict. And most importantly, it communicates power without speaking. When you stay silent in the face of arrogance, the room recognizes who has true strength, the quiet one, not the loud one. Picture a Stoic general standing before a screaming soldier. The general does not shout. He does not explain himself. He does not defend. He simply stands. That stillness is power. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire not with noise but with presence. His silence was legendary, an emperor who spoke only when it mattered. That's the energy you must embody. Controlled silence also protects your mental space. Arrogant people use words like bullets. They shoot insults hoping you will fire back. But when you refuse to engage, the bullets fall harmlessly at your feet. You become emotionally invincible. You show maturity. You show depth. You show discipline. Arrogant people may win through volume, but Stoics win through self-mastery. Now imagine applying this technique in your daily life, when someone cuts you off, when someone tries to embarrass you, when someone tries to provoke an argument. Instead of reacting, you stay silent and calm. Watch how their confidence collapses. Watch how their energy shifts. Watch how they begin explaining themselves without being asked. Controlled silence is the mirror that reveals the truth about people. And if you're still here, pause for a moment. This is the inner fortress. You're building yourself into a person who cannot be shaken. If this resonates with your spirit, hit subscribe. You belong in this community. And now, let's move into the next level of Stoic mastery. Section 4, the Stoic tactic of calculated questions. The fourth Stoic technique is one of the sharpest psychological tools you can use against arrogance, calculated questions. While arrogance thrives on monologue, Stoicism thrives on clarity. Arrogant people expect confrontation. They expect emotional resistance. They expect counterattacks. But they never expect calm, simple, direct questions that expose the weakness in their thinking. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong, I shall change gladly." This quote reveals the root of the Stoic mindset: clarity over ego, understanding over pride. Calculated questions disarm arrogance because they force the arrogant person to shift from emotional dominance to logical explanation. Arrogant people hate explaining themselves. They thrive on emotional pressure, not logic. When you ask the right question, you instantly pull them out of their comfort zone. They lose momentum. They lose control. They lose their superiority mask. A calculated question is like shining a bright light on a shadow. The shadow dissolves. Consider a workplace example. A team leader tries to embarrass an intern by saying, "Your idea makes no sense. Did you even think it through?" Instead of reacting emotionally, the intern calmly asks, "Can you help me understand which part doesn't make sense?" In that moment, the arrogant leader faces a problem. They must now give specifics. They must justify their insult. They must shift from aggression to clarity. And often, when arrogance meets clarity, arrogance loses. Calculated questions make the arrogant person confront the emptiness of their attack. When someone insults you, Instead of firing back, ask, "What exactly do you mean by that?" Watch their reaction. Suddenly, they must think. Suddenly, the room expects logic, not loudness. Suddenly, their ego stands naked. Or try this one. Why do you feel that way? This question exposes emotions they didn't want to reveal. Arrogant people hate acknowledging their insecurities, so the question destabilizes them. You are not reacting, you are investigating. You have taken the position of the calm observer. They are now the one being examined. Here's another powerful question. What outcome are you trying to achieve here? This forces the arrogant person to confront their motive. It highlights the pettiness of their behavior. It exposes the intention behind the arrogance. Most of the time, they will freeze because they never expected to be held accountable for their attitude. Calculated questions shift the power dynamic. When you ask questions, you control the flow of the conversation. You decide the direction. You decide the energy. You decide the emotional tone. This is what Stoicism teaches. Do not fight chaos, redirect it. Seneca said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." Calculated questions create that delay. They interrupt the emotional flow of arrogance. They create a space where logic must enter, and arrogance hates logic. In that space, you regain control. Here's a real example from a woman who worked in customer service. A customer, full of arrogance, shouted at her, "This is the worst service I've ever seen. Are you even trained?" Instead of reacting, she said calmly, "I want to help you. Can you tell me exactly what went wrong so I can fix it?" The customer froze. His anger collapsed. He expected resistance, not clarity. Within seconds, he changed his tone. That is the power of calculated questions. They deflate arrogance without conflict. Calculated questions also protect your dignity. When someone tries to belittle you, asking a question shifts the focus back to them. It forces them to clarify their disrespect. And most people cannot logically defend their arrogance. Their insults are rooted in insecurity, not truth. Your question exposes that insecurity instantly. This technique works everywhere, at work, at home, in relationships, with strangers, with anyone who tries to elevate themselves at your expense. When you ask calm, logical questions, the arrogant person becomes uncomfortable. Why? Because arrogance depends on emotional dominance, not intellectual strength. A calculated question is a silent message that says, "I am not stepping into your chaos. You will step into my clarity." This is why it works. Arrogance collapses under examination. Ego collapses under reflection. Loud people collapse when forced to think. You don't attack them, you let their own mind paralyze them. Now ask yourself, how powerful would you be if you mastered this ability? To silence arrogance not with anger, but with calm questions. To turn every attack into an opportunity for clarity. To remain steady, composed, centered, and strategic. You are becoming that person. You are becoming Stoic. And if you want to keep sharpening this mindset, make sure you subscribe to the Inner Fortress. You belong here. Section 5, the Stoic strategy of reflective detachment. Reflective detachment is one of the most misunderstood but most devastatingly effective Stoic techniques for silencing arrogant people. It means stepping back mentally, not physically, to observe the entire situation with clarity instead of emotion. You detach not to escape, but to see. Not to avoid conflict, but to understand it. Not to run away, but to rise above. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. In his journal Meditations, he wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion." But the deeper meaning is this: you have the option to rise above the game entirely. Arrogant people try to drag you into their emotional world. They want you defensive. They want you agitated. They want you off balance. But when you detach mentally, even while looking them in the eyes, you break the psychological trap. You become an observer rather than a participant. And observers always have more power than performers. Reflective detachment gives you a vantage point they cannot reach. Let me show you a real example. A young woman working in a tech company in Germany had a colleague who constantly belittled her. He questioned her intelligence, dismissed her contributions, and deliberately took credit for her work. Instead of reacting emotionally, she practiced reflective detachment. Every time he spoke arrogantly, she mentally stepped back and observed, not his words, but his insecurity. She realized something: his arrogance wasn't about her. It was about his fear that she was more competent. One day in a meeting, he tried again. He openly mocked her proposal with a sarcastic comment. But instead of defending herself, she paused. She tilted her head slightly, and with calmness, she asked, "Why does my idea make you uncomfortable?" The room went silent. That question came from detachment, not ego. It exposed the real issue. He froze. He stuttered. The manager stepped in from that day. He never dared attack her again. She didn't silence him with confrontation, she silenced him with understanding. Reflective detachment is not passive. It is a quiet form of dominance. It means seeing the arrogant person for who they really are, not the powerful bully they pretend to be, but the fragile ego they're trying to protect. Seneca said, "No man is crushed by misfortune unless he has first been deceived by prosperity." Arrogant people are often deceived by their own illusion of superiority. When you detach, you see the cracks in that illusion. And once you see the cracks, their words cannot pierce you. Another example comes from a man in South Africa. His older brother was incredibly arrogant, always boasting, always dismissing, always trying to control family conversations. Every sibling feared confronting him. But this man studied Stoicism. He learned to detach emotionally. During a family gathering, his brother attempted to ridicule him in front of relatives. Instead of reacting, he simply observed his brother with calm curiosity. He didn't take it personally. He didn't internalize the insult. He asked himself, "What pain is he hiding?" That moment of reflective detachment changed everything. His brother noticed the shift. He expected defensiveness but got stillness. He expected irritation but got neutrality. In front of everyone, the arrogant brother suddenly looked foolish. People began seeing through him. Reflective detachment exposes what arrogance tries to hide. When you detach, their act becomes transparent. Detachment means you no longer get pulled into their emotional storms. You watch the storm from the shore. You decide if their words deserve your energy. You decide if the situation deserves your voice. You decide what matters and what doesn't. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't be." That is detachment. Harm does not come from the insult, it comes from your interpretation. Detachment removes interpretation, it gives you emotional immunity. Arrogant people become powerless when you detach from their behavior. They cannot provoke you. They cannot control you. They cannot make you emotional. They cannot shake you. They cannot win, because their entire strategy depends on dragging you into a place where they can dominate. But when you step back mentally, they lose the battlefield entirely. Reflective detachment turns every insult into data. Every arrogant behavior becomes a case study. Every attack becomes information. You begin to notice things most people miss: tone, insecurity, emotional projection, power imbalance. You see the psychological mechanism behind the arrogance, and once you understand it, you cannot be controlled by it. Here's something powerful. Detachment gives you time. Time to think, time to breathe, time to choose the best response. Arrogant people react instantly because they are ruled by emotion. Stoics respond calmly because they are ruled by reason. The one with control always wins. Reflective detachment also protects your self-worth. When you detach, you stop evaluating yourself based on someone else's behavior. You understand that their arrogance says nothing about your value. It speaks only of their insecurity. You stop chasing approval. You stop fearing judgment. You stop internalizing negativity. Instead, you stand rooted in your own identity. That's what scares arrogant people. They cannot shake someone who is deeply anchored within themselves. This technique also minimizes unnecessary conflict. When you detach, you respond with clarity instead of emotion. You choose your words with precision. You maintain your dignity. You maintain your peace. And because your tone remains calm, arrogant people lose their advantage. They start sounding emotional while you sound rational. They sound childish while you sound mature. Their arrogance becomes visible to everyone around. Reflective detachment also prepares you for the next level of Stoic strength, using arrogance as a mirror. When someone acts arrogantly, instead of reacting, a Stoic asks, "What is this teaching me about myself?" Maybe their lack of control reminds you to master your own. Maybe their insecurity reminds you to heal yours. Maybe their loudness reminds you to strengthen your silence. Even arrogance becomes a lesson when you detach. Here's what most people don't realize. Detachment is not lack of emotion, it is mastery of emotion. It is choosing not to self-destruct. It is choosing not to react blindly. It is choosing not to hand your peace to someone else. It is choosing to stand tall inside yourself. Marcus Aurelius practiced reflective detachment as Emperor of Rome. He dealt with betrayals, political arrogance, and constant attacks. Yet he wrote, "They cannot hurt you unless you allow it withdraw into yourself." For him, detachment was not escape, it was armor. It was strength, it was survival. Seneca also taught that no one can emotionally control you unless you give them permission. Detachment removes that permission. When you detach, you reclaim your inner territory. You become sovereign over your mind. Let me give you one more real-life example, a powerful one. A man working in aviation had a supervisor known for aggressive arrogance. One day, the supervisor exploded at him over a minor mistake. Everyone expected a dramatic argument. Instead, the man stepped back mentally and listened without emotional involvement. After the outburst, he calmly replied, "I understand you're frustrated. Let me know the specific issue so I can fix it." The supervisor went silent. His aggression had nowhere to land. The subordinate stayed composed while the superior looked unstable. That moment changed the power dynamic forever. Detachment gives you this superpower. You cannot be humiliated by someone you are observing. Your ego is absent, your peace is present, your mind is clear, and arrogant people cannot fight clarity. Reflective detachment is not easy at first. It requires practice, but once you master it, you become emotionally invincible. You stop absorbing negativity. You stop falling into traps. You stop giving arrogant people access to your inner world. You rise above them, not through pride, but through wisdom. And if you're still here listening, understand something. You are not just learning Stoicism, you are transforming into someone people respect without you ever having to demand it. You are becoming the mountain that noise cannot shake. You are becoming the calm center of every storm. You are becoming someone who silences arrogance simply by existing. Before you leave this video, pause for a moment. Look at how far you've come. Right here, right now. You didn't just watch another motivational video. You stepped into something deeper. You stepped into the mindset of warriors, emperors, philosophers, and thinkers who shaped the world through discipline, calmness, and unshakable inner power. The truth is this: arrogant people don't fear loud voices. They don't fear arguments. They don't fear confrontation. What they fear, deeply, is someone who cannot be controlled. Someone who refuses to be provoked. Someone who stands firm within themselves like an ancient fortress. That someone is becoming you. If you've listened all the way to this end, it means your spirit is hungry for mastery. It means you're done letting others dictate your emotions. It means you're ready to rise, to grow, and to become the kind of person who commands respect without ever raising your voice. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Look at the colors you've chosen today: strength, stillness, clarity, power. You're not the same person who clicked on this video. You're becoming stronger, calmer, wiser, harder to shake, and impossible to manipulate. And listen. If this message touched you, inspired you, challenged you, or woke something inside you, then don't leave without taking a step that aligns with your growth. Subscribe to this channel, The Inner Fortress. Join thousands of people building the same unbreakable mindset. Like this video so YouTube knows you value this journey. Share it with someone you want to see rise with you. Leave a comment and claim your power. This is not just content. This is training. This is transformation. This is the building of your inner empire. And remember this final Stoic truth: you silence arrogant people not by crushing them, but by mastering yourself. Become so centered, so disciplined, so calm, that their noise cannot reach you. Become the presence that changes the room. Become the mind that cannot be moved. Become the fortress. Until next time, stand firm, stay calm, stay unshakable, and keep building your inner fortress.